please introduce our special guest and take it away. I'm going to try and behave and be quiet for a minute or so.
Hi everyone. Thanks very much, Jill. Yes, today our very special guest is Bernadette Anderson, who's very kindly agreed to join us literally very last minute. So really pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much for asking me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Now, Bernadette is a property developer. She deals with actually a variety of projects, which we're really looking forward to hearing about. So, Bernadette, welcome. And yes, please go ahead.
Thanks again for asking me. Hello, Jill. It's great to be on your show. So, yes, I'm a property developer. I specialise in commercial to residential conversions. I'm working on 3 projects at the moment, and these are all under permitted development. So for those of you that know what permitted development are, there were some rules that changed in August 2001, and that actually allowed developers like us, the government gave permission for us to be able to convert buildings, and specifically Class E buildings, under permitted development to residential housing. So this is a fantastic opportunity. There's a lot of developers that are also following this same route because it mitigates risk, and it's a good opportunity to secure investment from your investors also. And as I said, I've got 3 projects at the moment. I'm working with leading professionals in the marketplace, and yeah, I'm about to close on one of my transactions, so it's really exciting. Exciting times.
That sounds amazing, Bernadette. So when did you start? How long have you been doing this?
So I've been in property since 2008. I became an accidental landlord.
Okay.
And I used to be an IT consultant, actually. So I did 20 years of global SAP consulting around the world. And then I decided that it was time for change, and I moved into property full time. And then I moved into construction in 2019.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong, but SAP is project management, is that right?
Yes. So this is an actual IT system. I know the same expression same expression can come up in the construction world as well.
Okay.
But this was an IT software package that I was actually responsible for training end users. So my penultimate project, I actually was responsible for training for 20,000 end users across Europe.
Okay, so I was just wondering in that sense if there were any transferable skills you took into your property development business.
Yes, most definitely. Because people say, oh, property, it's quite different. Well, actually, no, it's not. You're just managing a project. And I'm really good with people. So for me, and plus it's the numbers also, and I actually manage budgets which are significantly higher. So here you're just taking all that experience across into a project. And I really like numbers. I really like Excel. It's a little bit sad, but it's true. And it's a great way of managing your day-to-day tasks. And I love meeting people, and being in construction now full time, it gives me the freedom to do what I want when I want. And they're all they're my projects, and I can choose to work with the right people to get the right result in the end.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about your first project and how you came across it?
So my first project, I was actually on a private emailing list for another property that I wanted to see, and I received an email while I was on holiday last year, and whereas some people might have not done anything with it, I knew it was something that attracted me. I actually ended up gazumping the other buyer in the end, and this transaction is just about to complete. So it's really exciting. And I could have potentially missed out on that viewing because I was away on holiday, but I was persistent, and I knew I wanted to go. I knew I wanted that building. So as I said, that we're about to complete. There's a lot of work that's into it. It's not straightforward doing all of this. It's not just a case of, okay, you put an offer in and you're going to buy a building. You need to make sure that you've done your due diligence, and you've crossed everything off. You can't go into something blindly.
Yes.
And that is definitely advice that I would give to anyone, because I think some people might just assume that, oh, okay, it's straightforward enough, you're just buying a building, buying a property. you know, especially because I'm buying a building and it's, you know, there's 2 commercial shops or 3 commercial shops involved, you need to ensure that you have the correct access to do works and all different things like that. So just as a flavour, because otherwise you can end up buying a building, you haven't got the correct access. How are you going to develop out your development?
So it sounds like you started off with quite a complex project. It wasn't kind of quite like you could have just bought a 2-bedroom buy-to-let, but you just went straight in with the development.
I've got buy-to-lets already.
Okay.
So because I've moved into commercial.
Okay.
So then for me, I'm like a dog with a bone. I won't stop. I need to know. I need to be clear on what I'm heading towards, and I need to understand the detail. That doesn't mean that I need to know absolutely everything, because it's also about who and how. You know, I employ leading professionals to work on my projects so they can inform me about what's going on. And I do like to know the detail, but I don't allow myself to get bogged down in the detail, if that makes sense.
Yes.
What that allows, because I have multiple projects on the go. I'm not just managing one project. I have my QSs to do and my project managers to work on my projects, but I need to know enough so I can make a decision. And for me, I have to be really clear about what's happening. And it's really exciting because this particular project, there's been numerous challenges. You know, I'm in contact with the vendors also. We're at a point now that, you know, everything's come to closure, and it will be an excellent result, because then it's win-win for everyone. It hasn't been a straightforward process, but at least when it comes to me actually purchasing the building, me needing to do the works that I need to do, I know that I can do them. And I won't have any further complications. And they've got the money that they wanted for the buildings, and I get to build out my project. Well, that's an example of one of my projects.
Sounds
Right. So, Bernadette, yeah, you mentioned detail, yeah, and it sounds as if you managed to strike the right balance between enough detail and realizing that you're going to have to figure some of the stuff out as you go on, employing the right professionals to do it, but also not getting caught up in every single detail, color of the brick and color of the tiles and all the various details. Is that right? Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, that is a good way to describe it, because you can't. My role in my company, because these are my projects, is I'm the one that finds the deals, and I'm the one that employs the teams. If I bog myself down, as you say, with all the detail, I'll only ever be able to work on one project. And not just that, I'm not a professional in every single area. That's why it's responsibility for the person that's actually running the project to bring in the professionals. You know, a good example of this, for example, is, you know, bringing in a good planning consultant. You know, my planning consultant, David Kemp, he's amazing. I trust him with everything. And we're actually collaborating on a project as well at the moment. But I rely on him because I'm not a planning expert. I rely on him. I will pay him to do an assessment for me on a site, so then I can make an informed decision. Because otherwise, if you try and understand all the terminology and what all the conditions are, it can be really stressful. I want quality on all my projects, so it's a case of I'll pay that bit extra, but I know what I'm getting is 110%. And if that brings my profit margin down a little bit, that's fine with me, because I know I'm going to get the right end result, rather than have to backtrack afterwards and try and clean up problems. And I know this, and this is a good point. When I was in IT, there was a lot of cutbacks that were made. So it's exactly the same principle here. The people above are thinking about the numbers all the time. Numbers, let's cut back the numbers, cut back the numbers. But then when you actually deliver the project and it's not delivered successfully, the fire team are brought in, and I used to be part of the fire team, and I was sent out to random locations around the world to train random people on how do we sort out all these problems, and that cost was not really associated with the implementation of the project. So that cost was factored in somewhere else. So really, how successful was that project?
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same principle here. So here, I don't want to be backtracking because I haven't understood a planning condition, or there was some other requirements which I haven't met with building regulations or something like that. Bringing the experts from the beginning which allows me to make an informed decision, and then I know that I have faith in my team and making sure that that project is delivered successfully.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, and it was actually the same road he was talking about, and his cousin owned a place there. It was a house to a flat conversion, and I said, I've just done a party wall for someone there. They've converted a house. He said, what number? Blah, blah, blah. I said, I'll share the information on one condition. You do not attempt to do the drawings yourself, because he's one of these guys that can do a little bit of stuff, right? So I said, one condition, I'll give you the details, I'll give you the architect's details, I'll give you all the guys who'll do it for you. You promise me you're not going to try and do it yourself. And we had a little bit of a banter, and it came out, he tried a similar project 5-6 years ago, but he just gave up on it because the detail was too great. You know, we all sometimes think, yeah, that's easy, we can have a little bit of go, no magic science. Or in David's case, yeah, I've been to his talk, I can look the rest of the way up and make it happen. But when the detail you miss is the point that'll hold you up, or as you said, you might have to bring in a firefighting team that ends up costing you more money and more headaches. Great tip. Sharon,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Bernadette, about doing your due diligence properly, because, as long as you've done your best with that, and I think with all projects, you agree there's always going to be something that turns up that
There's always going to be
exactly. So, as far as possible, I think that, absolutely is a sensible thing to do to make sure that the project runs according to plans.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. The way to mitigate risk is to plan ahead as much as possible. Another good example is the new requirements that we're going to have to adhere to for EPC regulations. I think we've flipped over.
We don't know how to do this. Sorry, Stu.
This just proves we're absolutely live, and we're not making this up. This is on the road live.
There we go.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
But we're responding as we go. How's that? Are we the right way up? I know.
No, but we're just going to have to go with it. Don't worry. Let's just roll with it. That's it. Well done.
Can you see me? I look a bit blurred.
You're a bit blurred when it goes in and out of focus. Right, that's it.
Okay. All right. We'll yeah. Let's see.
That's it.
Is that better? Yeah.
Almost.
Apologies to everyone for the technical issues. There's
No,
always a technical.
This is what they call special effects, right?
Yeah, it's special effects.
Let's go with this. That's fine. Let's just go with this.
Maybe like this, so then we're both in focus.
Yeah.
So another good point for people who do want to develop and do a conversion at the moment is to make sure that you've got a good energy consultant. That's really important, because in 2025, there's new EPC regulations that the government wants to enforce. How realistic is that really? Because they're wanting rental properties to have an EPC rating of B, which is actually going to be quite challenging for a lot of buildings, because some of these buildings are older. But it's important for people who are doing these projects to make sure they've got an energy consultant and speak to them prior to see how realistic, okay, go to them, I'm buying this building, I want to achieve a EPC rating of B, what do I need to get there? How much is it going to cost? Because that cost also needs to be factored in. And I think that's probably something that most people are missing at the moment also.
And do you think, Bernadette, with the older the building, the more additional cost this is going to,
I think realistically, I think there's going to be some costs, but in the long term, if you're looking to hold a building, that doesn't faze me, because at the end of the project, I'm going to hold that building, and I'm going to be retaining it. So
I wondered if it would affect your decision in terms of which type of building would you be looking for, a more newer building, or, you know, does it not really make any difference?
Well, it does make a difference, but it also depends on the location and the growth in the area.
Yeah.
You also need to take into account in that area what's demand, because if the demand is quite high, then you know that you can make your money back also. So there are actually several things to consider.
Apart from the compliance side of things. Yeah.
But again, going back to my point, being mitigating risk as much as possible, because what you wouldn't want to do is just go ahead and do your refurb now, your conversion, and then think, oh, 2005, and now I need to make it compliant to an EPC rating of B. Then you've got to go back. Then you've got to start insulating and things like that, which is it's unnecessary cost. So again, it's just about planning ahead, mitigating risk, reducing the cost as much as possible, making sure that you've got experts in all different areas, keeping you informed, and make sure that they're that's my job also, but my QS's job and my project manager's job, to make sure they're all collaborating together, making sure that the architect has got a clear, detailed design documents with all the instructions in place for the builders, for the contractors, because they're not going to know. They won't know.
No.
So you need to be really specific, which you guys know already, but this is for people on the live now.
Well,
no one can assume what you've got in your head. If you want someone to do it, you need to make sure that it's literally there in black and white, and you've got your QS and your project manager following that week by week and checking that in with the contractors.
It's an interesting. What you said is very interesting. You said something about make sure it's just not in your head; it's on the paper. Believe it or not, there are people building projects, actual real.
I know.
Builders that don't have drawings and details, right? And when we're asking them for it, they said, yeah, and this goes back to my dad's time, because they just used to build stuff by on the top of their head, even though they're not supposed to. But I mean, I can't believe there's a project going on it's quite Chiswick, decent part of town, and these guys don't have detailed drawings. When we asked them for detailed drawings, it was an interesting conversation back and forth, and they're literally ready to dig the foundations. And the drawings they sent me, I said, these are wrong, guys. Come on, we know we're going to get hauled up on this from the neighbours party wall surveyor. So believe it or not, that happens so much in property development. It's unbelievable. And I have a feeling they were trying to say a few quid or a relatively small amount and not getting it done properly, you know.
But that's unfortunately what it does come down to. People think they can save money.
Yeah.
It doesn't save money, because something won't be right, something will go wrong. And is it really worth that hassle? I'm very much a tick in the box person. I want it done properly, but also I want it done. I don't do it just because it's done. I'll make sure that it's actually done to the correct standard as well, because then that way I have peace of mind. And I can continue working on my other projects.
Yeah, and does that part of that go? Because I think you mentioned that all your projects are built at homes. Is that right? Or most of your projects are built to home?
Converting buildings.
Sorry?
Converting buildings to residential, so commercial buildings.
So you're building those to hold, not just sell on. Is that right?
Converting them to hold, yes.
Yeah. And I guess, and I'm of the opinion that development is the hardest part of the property business, right? If you're going to do it, it's only worth doing properly where you're going to hold stuff.
It's always worth doing property, regardless of whether you're going to hold it or whether you're going to sell it. Because even if you're going to sell it, by the time like now, we're already in 2023. So by the time that development is done, it's going to be 2024, and you're already
Yep.
close to 2025. And for me, I like to do things properly. So even when I've bought and sold my own cars, for example, I've had them serviced, I've had them MOT'd, and I put them for sale. I like to sell quality, because if I was going to buy a building, convert it, and then sell it, then I would still want to do it to an EPC rating of B for the 2025 regulations, because the price that I will be able to expect for it will be higher, because then the buyer will know that, okay, there's not actually much work that needs to be done here.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because
About thinking ahead and adding quality, because there are some people, and I know a lot of these people, that they don't want their money in bank accounts. Everyone, the bank only covers, I think, £85,000.
That's right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if the bank goes bust, the person loses their money. So I know many people who are putting their money into property because it's a safe place to put it. So some people aren't necessarily interested about, a 20% uplift or 25% uplift. They just want their money in property where they can physically see it.
Okay.
So if they have to choose between a building that's got an EPC rating of D and one that's got B, for someone that doesn't want hassle and they just want to put their money somewhere, they're going to go for an EPC rating of B.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because when we get our kill on, I'm always pushing him, say, look, stick this EPC stuff on, because you're a mortgage broker and you're going to end up not having more unmortgageable properties, which you get for various other reasons, but just to have it for something like an EPC. And in your case, in the case of where you're developing a property, it could mean something as simple as putting an extra bit of insulation on and putting it in the right places, because you're ripping everything up anyway, or a lot of it. So it's easier to do it then if you think ahead. So,
yeah, totally. I mean, for example, with the building that I'm about to complete on, we'll be ripping up all the floorboards that we'll have putting in proper acoustics. We'll be putting in a 60-minute fire compartmentalisation. So in case of fire break, that can't spread. We'll make sure it's all done properly. And it just makes sense, when I was speaking to my consultant this week, I'm asking him, is there anything else we can do at the same time? Now, I'm getting them to think ahead. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? He's the expert. I'm asking him, is there anything else we can do while we're doing this? Because let's do it now. It makes sense. The floorboards are coming up. If there's anything else we're going to do, let's do it now. It doesn't have to be done retrospectively then.
yeah, don't name the expert. Do you think these guys get used to with people saying, show us the shortcut, we don't want to spend the money, and there's you asking for the opposite, saying, is there anything else we need to take care of now? They'll save us having to do it later on.
Well, I think differently. I think about the bigger picture, peace of mind. I need to work on different projects. I don't have time to be messing around with stuff like that. It's not for me. That's not effective. I just want it done properly. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but at least I've got peace of mind.
Right.
And that's what I need. I don't like cutting corners. I just want it done. Move on. Next project. Simple. Keep it simple.
Right. So Bernadette's top.
Keep it simple. That's what I'm saying. Keep it simple. Employ professionals on your project. Make sure you've got everything covered. Mitigate your risk as much as possible. You've got peace of mind. Next project comes along. Start working on that. Still manage that. Close that one off, and then that cycle continues.
Charanjit?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's actually really great to hear you say that, because I'm sure a lot of builders,
Think differently.
definitely do take a lot of shortcuts. So I think it's really, reassuring to hear that. So another question I had for you, Bernadette, was how are you funding your projects?
I have my own funds.
Okay.
From being an IT consultant, but I also work with a number of investors.
Okay.
And I have quite a good relationship with my investors, so I can use investor finance to put down on my projects, and then I'm using development finance, so bridge development loans predominantly.
Okay, are you finding that it's working well?
Yeah, it's working well, because for me, again, it's about win-win. It's not about me dictating, okay, this is what I'm going to give you. It doesn't work like that, because I can't do the project without the investor. The investor can't get their return without the project. And so for me, it's about asking my investors, what do you want? You know, what's your long-term goals? What do you need? You know, is it cash flow from day one, or is it or are you happy with an annual return? Because then that type of answer will then determine, okay, well, if someone wants cash flow from day one, then one of my commercial to residential deals, that won't be good for you, or that's not the right. So it's just understanding what does the investor need, but also it's about making sure that everything's really transparent. People know me anyway, so not that I am fortunate, but I've created that for myself. I have a successful IT career, so I did that for 20 years. I'm also a philanthropist. I give away money, so people know that I've given away a lot of money. I've supported many causes for the last 17 years, and so people know me already. So they know that if they come and do a joint venture with me, or if they invest in one of my deals, that I'm not going to rip them off. Everything's really transparent. Everything's drawn up in a loan agreement, and then whatever else is needed is finalised. And again, it's about win-win. And then and that works well for the investor, because that means, okay, they're going to reinvest with me again, and they don't need to do all their due diligence, because for them it's also timely. And for me, also, it's about working with the right people. So some people who have approached to work with me, I wouldn't necessarily work with everyone. So it is a bit of an application process also, and that's in terms of being a JV partner and people that want to invest, because this is about win-win. I'm very much about the environment and caring and giving back to the community, which I can talk to you about that another time, about some of the other projects that I'm working on. And for me, it's about giving back. It's not just about making money, because I used to say this when I was in IT. When I die and leave this earth, it's not going to be how many successful projects I worked on that flashes before me. It's going to be, what did I do? Who did I help? What was my footprint? And it's the same here with property. This isn't about my change in career. It's not about making loads of money. I just want enough money to do the stuff that I was doing before and continue to do. And it's about, what did I do with that knowledge? Who did I help? So that's why I can talk to you another time about some of the other projects, community projects we've got going on, because it's a case of giving back to the community. It's all about, who did you help? What did you do? For me, that's important. So in terms of, and that all ties in then, because if an investor also wants to help in that way, then there's a great opportunity there.
Fantastic. We would really love to hear about some of your social stroke giving back projects, because the way I see it is, housing has become a little bit, well, not a little bit, it's really political. And I don't think that's the right way to deal with housing and developments and property. It's, if you listen to some of the politics, apart from the boat stuff, with the other property stuff, it seems to be very adversarial. There's a left and the right, and I don't think it should work like that, and I don't think that's the way it works best. But we'd love to hear your stuff on your social and your giving back projects. And talking about applications and charity, can I put in my application for Dill's charity stuff now? So I'm going to go to the top of the ladder for my personal charity, holiday charity, right? Sorry, charity. Any questions on that aspect? So I thought that was great.
I just want to say just how refreshing it is to hear you speak about, everything that you've already said, the fact that you want your projects to be a win-win for everybody, right? So there are a little bit of a collaboration. It's not just all about what's the most money you can make from the deal, and obviously, that's important too, but also the fact that you want to give back to the community, and you're thinking more, what do you want to leave behind? I mean, to me, what you're talking about is what legacy do you want to leave behind, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I think that is so refreshing to hear somebody talk about that, and talk about giving back to the community, talking about, you know, all the different projects that you support. So, you know, I just really do think that's really wonderful. And, you know, I think, I'm sure your investors are obviously very pleased as well. I mean, where do you normally find your investors? Or do people normally just come to you to hear about your project, to come to you?
All over. So
Yeah.
I have all my IT contacts. I was in IT for 20 years, and I'm always on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook. So people want to come and find me, I'm Bernadette Anderson. Send me a message on LinkedIn or Facebook, preferably LinkedIn, because I know I'll definitely see that message. I am on Instagram. I'm not on there so much, but people contact me via my social media channels, but I'm always at networking. So tonight we're lucky enough to be here at the Titans event, a Mani Chopra's event, fantastic event. And, you know, there's people in the room that come to events like this, not necessarily because they want to do it themselves, but because they want to meet people who other people are doing it, and they want to see how they work. And they're also doing their due diligence on people. So, you know, the fantastic networking events like this are a great opportunity for people to come together to network and talk about business, really.
In fact, we met at a networking event.
We did.
Last year, we met at
did.
Brooklands event.
Yes.
It was an event run by Mark Stokes.
Yes,
right?
Equa Academy.
Equa
Mark
Academy,
Stokes
yes.
And Nigel Green, fantastic
Yes.
event. Yes.
Nice. Didn't invite me then, did you two?
Well, I didn't know you then, Jill. You're going to have to.
I'm just smoking around.
Thanks.
The invitation's in the post, right? No, it's great. Look, super. One of the other things is we're in quite a turbulent market, and I'm guessing with most projects, it all hinges on your GDV, what the value of your project at the end. Have you adjusted your valuations over the last, say, 6 months to a year to possibly reflect the changes in interest rates?
Yeah, so there are definitely challenges with valuations. So valuations are typically, for builders, typically marked down by about 2.5% at the moment. So if there was an evaluation that had already been done, even if it's still in date, a lender could actually mark it down. So this is something that needs to be considered when you're putting all your numbers together. And also, what's really important is because of the stupid increase or massive increase in the interest rates, it's caused a huge problem, not just for landlords, but also for social housing and just the whole market. You know, I'd read an article, but I couldn't qualify it. But I'd read an article just after Christmas saying that there's 70,000 landlords that exited the buy-to-let market in London alone last year. You know, and it's really alarming because, you know, we've got a housing crisis where we can't actually meet our quota, but then it's not being made easy for us. And I even saw, I'm not sure if you saw it on one of the chats today, one of our WhatsApp chats, one of the big home developers are actually going to be planning to reduce how many homes they make because of this crisis that we're in at the moment. So
because they can't get hold of supplies, interest rates,
just everything.
Okay.
It's more of a case of just the interest rates. So what's happening at the moment, this has determined me to stop what I'm doing. I just need to think differently about it, and I need to plan ahead, and I need to be more creative. So when I'm looking at opportunities, so there's an opportunity that we're going to offer on next Thursday, and that allows us to convert this beautiful building, but also to put a new build. But my vision is I don't want to we could actually make the new build more extensive so we can lift our GDV, but I want to have part of that area as just a small, maybe the size of this room, so that, you know, So just to give you an idea, so what we say, maybe let's say 5 by, let's say 24 square meters, something like that. But just a little communal garden for those flats. So it's not just, for me, it's not just about turning everything into a concrete jungle, but making it nice for someone to live there, because then what that allows me to do, rather than all of that just being concrete, when people come to do the viewings, they're going to think, oh, okay, there's some communal space, there's a communal garden. Oh, okay, I can at least, there'll only be 8-10 flats there, they'll still be confirmed. People can have a barbecue, if people got kids, they can just go outside. It just makes it a little bit nicer. So, like I said, going back to what I said, it hasn't put me off. You just need to think differently about what you're delivering. So trying to find a plot, and also my preference is that not to develop on grass, lands that hasn't been used, so more brownfield land. So just to try and help the environment as much as possible. So here I'm taking a site that's already been built on, but I'm going to, renovate it and refurbish it, but add value, not just to the GDV because it's a new build, but also add value to the people that will ultimately live there in the end. And then that, when it comes to people going to do the viewings, they think, okay, I've got parking, there'll be enough car parking spaces, and I've got a bit of outdoor space. I mean, I have to work at home like we all do. Cabin fever. It's not great, but it's not nice. People need to get out, and it also creates a bit of community. People get to know that there's somewhere where people can go to, meet their neighbours also. So it's just about thinking differently, knowing the challenges that we're going through at the moment, because society has changed so much working from home and loneliness, and people just need an excuse just to go outside sometimes. So add quality, and then I won't have a problem with people wanting to rent my properties.
Great. No, look, I totally agree about working from home. I'm the opposite. I love working from home. In fact, I'd never leave if I could get away with it. I think I'm gonna shut the door and keep myself in if I can get away with it. But you talked about having some open space, so literally you're gonna have a real jungle instead of a concrete jungle, right? If it's a wild garden. Great. Some great ideas. Apparently wild gardens are great because people love those. It gives them a real jungle feel. So I'm not a green, I don't have any green fingers, so don't ask me about the gardening stuff. Gadget, what else you got? What other question?
I think since COVID and with the increasing number of people working from home, there's definitely been a demand for open spaces.
Definitely.
I think a lot of estate agents that I spoke to since said people, in fact, were moving out of concrete jungles and wanting to move out so that they could have the extra, garden space. So I think you're quite, spot on with that one. Yeah.
Brilliant. Look, I've got tons of questions, but look, I know you're sort of really pressed for time, but I'd like to thank you very much for taking time out, sharing some of your experiences and real life experience, not just stuff that people read in a book or watch somebody else do it. Doing it, and really great kudos to you to making, I suppose you could call it a transition from a different environment, although using your skills in that term, and taking the leap and having a go and, sharing some of the lessons you've come up with. Most of all, thank you for the time you've given to being on this little podcast. And we really want to hear about your social stuff, because I really think, what you said was really interesting about what are we leaving behind when it's our turn to cash the check in and go and get on the ultimate flight, right? So what do we leave behind? Yeah. What do we leave behind? Is it another, and I was speaking to a bunch of guys warring over, I think it's 8 inches of land today, and I'm thinking, come on guys, there's more to life than that. I could say that's what goes on a lot, and it's really great. I don't think people stop long enough to think about what they're actually leaving behind, instead of what they think they're accumulating in their bank balance. So no, that's great. We'd love to hear your stuff on your social stuff, because I think with housing and property, that's an aspect that gets missed, and I don't think the government has all the tools to solve it.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
They don't.
you know, and if you think about and there's a big thing about hating on landlords at the moment, right? But if you think about the energy it takes to buy something, maintain it, keep it up to date, and the paperwork that all goes behind it, all the commentators, and sometimes I see them on YouTube, all the guys who hate on landlords, I don't think they have that experience of doing it, because they wouldn't be hating on landlords if they understood what it actually takes sometimes to keep things running.
Mm-hmm.
So look, brilliant for doing that social stuff. We'd love to hear more about it. Let's get you back on the program. Charanjit, comment?
Thank you so much, and thank you, Charanjit, for asking me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
It's
much.
been wonderful. Thank you.
No, thank you. And you know, I just want to repeat really what Dil said. It's just really great. I think for me, what really comes across is your professionalism. So it's really nice to hear from a professional property developer, and you know, and how you work and how you ensure everything's done properly. So yes, thanks once again. We look forward to seeing you again.
And I was just thinking, very apt, so thank you for asking also, because it's Women in Construction Week.
Oh wow, okay.
Yes, it's Women in Construction
Perfect.
Week.
More women. Kudos.
Yeah, kudos.
Is it Women in Construction Week? So
It is.
Perfect.
And
if can I transfer a week and be in construction for a week, then
Great.
sorry, that's a bit of a sore subject. I might have pushed the boat a bit too far.
It's all right, I'm very thick-skinned.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of tough cookies, and I'm tough. So
You're tough, are you?
I can take a lot. Let me assure you.
I'm probably going to get stuck off somewhere. I'm going to get into trouble somewhere, but no, it's like, it's great.
Yeah. Yes.
What's that?
Sorry.
Charanjit, what was that?
I said this is real experience. Someone with real experience speaking here. You can
Yeah.
tell.
Real, literally boots on the ground sort of stuff. Not the people who write a check or just. And I see this a lot. People who don't do anything else. They're all property investors. I've got friends that do that. I've got friends that said, come and pull yourself together. When are you going to get yourself a proper professional? Have you had enough of your break, your midlife crisis break that they're on there? And they said, no, I've got a job. I'm doing this, and I'm a property developer or a property investor. I'm thinking, you guys know nothing about it. It's just a flashy title everybody puts on their LinkedIn or something. But no, it's great. So thank you for your time. Really, really great share, and we'd love to have you back on. And I really want to hear about this social stuff when you're ready, because I think that's we all want to think about and talk about this stuff. There's too many people who don't have the housing they should have.
Totally.
Thank you very much, both of you, and we'll see you shortly, I guess.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jane.
Pleasure. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Bernadette. Thanks, Charanjit. And
Bye.
we'll see you shortly. And all our viewers, like and subscribe so we can get Bernadette back on.
Yeah, give us a like.
Cheers. Press the like button. It's the one that does that. Well, you can press that one if you want.